So, welcome back to my channel LightWave Guru. David Ricardo Rodriguez, your question was, have you tested it with animation? Yes, I have, and I have for that my own deform test scene for that beer. Yeah, you know, my theme the last weeks was fiber effects with LightWave. So I show here that beer in a default position, use that default position to test the deformations. Yeah, so that's the reason that fiber effects test scene here, let's name it beer 2024 FFX deform test. And now if you take exactly a look, you see that I use here 2019 1.5. So one reason is I can here render with all my cards. Yeah. So with my older Octane license, but that's now, and I showed not for you, David, the deformation shots and animation tests, and the thing is that beer is full rigged, I can animate them, yeah. So I'm really not the best character animator, anybody knows that. I can animate characters, but I'm not specialized on that, yeah. So I'm in that direction. If I make rigs for something, and I can build rigs for everything, for characters, for machines, for whatever you need, is more the technical direction, yeah. So I'm deep in the shit with that. So that's not the thing. I have their very complex knowledge, but I'm not really predestinated as a character animator. I'm not specialized on that, you know what I mean? But that's not the thing what I'm talking about. I'm talking in that moment here about the difference 2019 to 2024, and I show it now. And the thing is, if I work with the same scene in 2024, then the preview for the hairs look like that here, yeah. And that you see that's exact the same preferences as in 2019 I showed here, yeah. So we have here in 2019 the shading method is PBR GLSL shaders, and here is it the same. So for me, in my native, yeah, so I'm a simple user, you know. I think for myself, okay, if I open that scene in a later version, so I have the same look, so that I can see what I do with my hairs. But that's not the case. So that is a little bit also for the developer. If I then publish that scene, and I would that scene published for the LightWave digital channel then later, yeah, so that everybody can download that scene with that beer and check for himself if you use, for example, Octane, how it looks like to build a Octane hair shader. That's also another theme. Then I test the Octane hair shader for the actual studio version, or the prime version. They come with LightWave, and that default hair shader node, it's crap. So my own hair shader setup, my own node tree for hair shaders is much better as that Octane hair node. Oops, I'm so sorry. But I know Octane very exactly, so I know what I do there. But that's also another theme. So would say, if I would edit to show then later for the videos, for the LightWave digital channel, that beer, I would show it with 2019. And the simple reason is, yeah, take a look. Yeah, so that's really a difference. Yeah. You see it, and if we would best perform in the internet, also on the Discord server or for the public, is it better to show than that beer with 2019? And the simple reason is that 2019 show me exactly what I do. Yeah, so I have no idea what that is, but I close it now. Nobody knows it. So David, back to you. This beer later, if you load that scene and you have Octane, can show you what fantastic things you can do with that tool. So Fiber FX is very a complex tool. It's not for to make something overnight. Yeah, so it's not for kids. Okay, so and if you use that tool, you have many options to do something. And my last trick to bring it now more to real life. Yeah, I built a little setup to bring the fiber width. So how, in what width have the fiber along his V, yeah, that fiber V. I built here in a little gradient ramp, yeah, so that the hair start with a width or thick with a specific value, and it ends then with another value, and it combinate over his length, his widthness or his thickness. But the thing is, in nature, it is not for every hair along the fiber V you have the same thick or the same width. Yeah, so that's not happen. That's not the reality. The reality is that every hair variate a little bit about his thick or width. Yeah, and that's the reason I built also in with the blending mode multiply with a very little layer opacity from 1%. The black and white map, that's the image map, and that image map steer also and combine over the fiber V with multiply it to that general thickness for the hair or width from the hair. Mix it is with that black and white map, with that body grow map, yeah, so I call that so, and that body grow map say then for every hair, okay, make the thickness or the width from that hair a little bit in another way. Yeah, so that one hair have a thick from 0.1 millimeter, the next hair have a thick from 0.15 millimeter or from 0.08 millimeter, and so on and so on. So that for every hair we have, or for every pixel, that the map is 4K map here, yeah. For every pixel you found here and his black or white parameter built in combination with it along the fiber V, a hair with a different thickness, yeah, and that's in the end brings then a render output. There you see that it looks more natural as if you have for every hair the same thickness or the same width, yeah. And that's a little bit the thing I work in the moment, and this is the last 10% if you want to build a perfect hair setup. So 90% you can build quick, and anybody can do it quick, so that's not the thing, yeah. I call about that what it brings then to AAA, and that needs a while, and that you do not overnight. And that's the thing if we talk about hairs in general. If we use Fiber Effects for hairs, then I have to say that if show me somebody a hair rendering from another 3D software program, and all the 3D software programs now have a good hair implementation, it say me nothing exactly. So the first questions I have then, if I see that, how much time need that artist, and second, was that for a client a work there you have a template and you have to work to that template to bring it as template your version in the same condition, or is it a free work also the artist do for itself? That two categories are important. So if I build a hair set for a client, I'm specialized on things like that. That means that you have developed that, okay, with your client. Yeah, and that's another process if you develop it with a client, so that the client say, hey, okay, I love that hair set and that setup, it's ready, I buy it, or you do it for yourself. So that's two different things. And the second is that it's not important if it looks like, if you see a hair rendering, for example, from LightWave or another 3D program, that's not the parameter that's important. If you look take a look as a professional on it. As a professional, your first question is how much time it need, yeah, and what was the cost for that, okay? And that's important. And that's a question you have also if you make it professional. As a hobby artist, you see that ready rendering and you say, yeah, that's a good hair or bad hair. So that's your own goal, yeah. If you take a look on that, but as a professional, other parameters play a role. If I know that the user, let us take that beer as example. I spent 5 years before 20 hours to bring it in that condition, yeah, and now I spend other 10 hours 5 years later to play a little bit with the new Octane options, change the lighting in spectral rendering and something like that. So I can now say I need 30 hours to bring it in that condition, okay? And that's for me much more important as all that posing, oh, look, that program can produce this hair or that hair. That's not important. Yeah, that's for art Philistines. So that's what I call it. Yeah. So that have nothing to do with that. What's in the reality, if we produce things like that for a client, what is important. So, and the thing is, if a client say to me, I can only pay 3 days, and then I need a FiberFX hair set from you, yeah. So in 3 days, you cannot do so much as you have a month's time. So also the production parameter play a role. So if I want to create a perfect hair set for clients, that the client say, I wanted to use in a AAA environment or in a AAA condition, yeah, for example, then that means that developing time for a hair set need much longer as if I make a quick hair set for industrial animation or for a quick sheep anima or something like that, and anybody may have to know that. Yeah, so that's a little bit behind the scenes, all that, if you work with FiberFX and LightWave. And another thing is FiberFX means not hair FX. FiberFX means you can create fibers. So you can also build pipelines with it if you want, or something like that. Yeah, so you have not to create only hair with FiberFX, you can do with that much more. So you can along a 2-point poly chain or along splines or along hair, so-called hair guides in FiberFX with 3 different ways of creation, fibers. Yeah, and you can influence that fibers over the length and so on and so on. But that I call and tell you then later more exactly if I explain here the scene and what I do in that scene. Yeah. So it means if you're developing things with FiberFX, yeah, you have to know in the beginning before you begin with that project, or yeah, and you think about, okay, in what way I have to develop that, how much time you have, yeah, if you do it for a client, if not, played no role, if you do it for yourself, and what can I create in that time, and what parameter needs that hair for the client. For example, I need later that the hair is also be animatable. So yeah, for example, then you have to build a totally other setup as if it's enough that the geometry deformation from a character, for example, if that beer now have a walk or something like that, influence with the normals, the position for the hair, and so on and so on. So is it short hair? Is it long hair? Hair. That's all very complex, and I hate a little bit that discussions where we not talking about all the parameters and we look on a picture without any context and say then, that's look good or that looks bad. That's stupid. That's for beginners. That's for art Philistines. That have nothing to do with that what we do as 3D artists. Yeah, so we as 3D artists have to go deep in the shit. Yeah, and that means in the end that I can explain for every hair on that beer here. Yeah, for every color tint and for every hair thickness and position. In what way is it created? What do that or that parameter there? And why it looks that and not in that way. So I can exactly explain that. Yeah, and as at last you have different methods to do that. Yeah, so here for example for that beer is it a combination from per hand painted hair guides about scaling and straightening, yeah, and also steer the length of the fibers with a black and white image map. So it's a combination from two technologies. It's not only one technology, it's two technologies. It's steered by image maps and by handmade and painted guides. Yeah. So it's like if you go to a hairdresser, yeah, and you have build with his own tools, and then I came with my image maps and tweak it a little bit in the end. Yeah. So, but that I talk and explain later. So, one more time, so that the developers from LightWave did not forgive. For 2024 take a look why the preview for the fiber effects looks not in the same way as we have it here in LightWave 2019. Yeah, and the thing is, it's important, very important for me as artist that I see exactly in the OpenGL preview what I do there. So if I change here, for example, the hair thickness or width or something like that, or the gravity parameter or the length from the hair, I can see it directly in OpenGL. If I cannot see it, I have to render it every time. So for example, now in the actual version with 2024.1, and it need more time. So that's important that this scene, and if I send them Anthony Hall that scene, you can use it as developer to check what's happened that it looks not in the same way or equivalent in LightWave 2024.1. Yeah. So would say later, have a nice time, and yeah, greetings.